Buy VX220. This is saying goodbye to an old love. This isn't shopping on the dark web for poison, but it is selling a vintage vehicle. And some of the strategies involved by the buyer mainly are quite dubious. They'll take chances on something that's rare and difficult to get hold of, so they have their suspicions as well. There was an intermediary expert as well. Vauxhall VX220 is a copy, really, of a Lotus Elise. It had been appreciating as an asset at about £500 a year, which for a car that cost me $4,000 isn't too shabby. What did you sell it for? Hold your horses, power. I think I'm gonna cry. I used to take people for a joyride when I used to put it on the market. 2 people in the sports car zipping up a hill. And it is zipping, and it is a 10% hill, at least. And it doesn't even notice. I had a 2-week trip to Monaco to watch the Formula 1 Grand Prix. Always at a similar time to Le Mans. You see all your classic car buddies on the ferry. And there's also Prescott Hill climb, but that's an older clientele. It was a very good budget entry into a world, a sort of community that you wouldn't otherwise qualify for that privilege. I'm thinking a Citroen 2CV might do it, but it's £4,000 for one of those now. Initial contact from a seller. I'm familiar now with a fair number of buyer strategies. 2, at least, identities you seem to need to have. There's the putting in the insulting, derisory, even offer. And then there's the jolly nice guy. You'd know what those people are like. You'd much rather sell it to me, wouldn't you? They are the same person contacting you, but when people have got the money to spend on high budget items and think they can sell it on, they need the stock. You'll get several of these emails and you can't really tell who the same person is without asking for their number. People have started not giving out numbers, and I think in the past I've been given some fake ones anyway. On the part of the seller, that's me. I've done too many joyrides now. I just don't want to keep doing it. I've asked for a deposit before. I've even tried asking for a delivery charge, non-refundable delivery charge. Neither of those have worked. But as the seller, your main problem is that you're divulging the location. I've done my best to meet somewhere else. Divulging the location means that they can come back if they're a specialist and just take pieces off your vehicle. I've done viewings before with a French guy, as it turns out, and his mate. They're doing good cop, bad cop. Bad cop emailed me. They'd agreed to pay a price. There wasn't going to be any negotiations, but bad cop decided on the way here he was going to knock me down 500. So after they'd agreed to pay the original, I knocked them up 500. They disappeared off empty-handed. I was fine with this, really. But seller's remorse is a real thing, as well as buyer's remorse. Seeing my love disappear on the back of a truck, trailer, and convincing myself after revealing it from under its cover, falling in love with it all over again. I should have done that stainless steel exhaust. I should have not done the stainless steel exhaust, but done a turbo conversion, which is what I'm going to do instead. But it's the £1,000 every MOT that a garage managed to find work needed to be done because they think you've got money to burn. It's appreciating at £500 a year in theory, and every MOT every year costs you £1,000. So I didn't MOT my love for years. I hardly saw her. I never got inside her. A couple of rags in case of any leaks inside her, but no spiders. I say her, but the VX220 has slightly more angular lines, making it look a little bit more masculine than the Lotus Elise. So no MOT, no way of starting the vehicle just because it's completely dead battery and the battery is so buried tight down under the water butt for the screen wash. The exhaust visibly moves because it's rusted away. It would probably only be one little section of the very tortuous route that it takes, but because of the exhaust, the engine will start to overheat a little bit before if you drive it too far. But the buyer would, if you put it on for the absolute cheapest of any that I've ever seen, 8,000. I put it on at 8,000. This is like a barn find type price. I'm surprised people still haggle before they've got out of bed. They'd offer 700 if you put it on for 800. I did a double check. They're 7,000. They made their derisory offer well under 1,000 under the asking price, and I stonewalled at 8,000. They wanted to split the difference between a derisory offer and a break budget. Of course, I stonewalled again, and then I did £500. Okay, I've reconsidered. I'm not going to change from my reconsidering is the logic behind it. But perhaps most importantly, no quibbling. There goes my baby with someone new. No quibbling. Come here. I've explained the problem with people stealing parts. Is that you, is it? Goes the psychology. And no quibbling, please. They want to be seen as a reasonable person to deal with. It did end up as a pleasant experience. They were keeping their mouth shut while I was counting their 7,500 in cash. Yes, only trade motor cars in cash as seen. Navigating and signing the papers in English. V5. I haven't done it as a carte grise for a Citroen 2CV, but it was problematic in the wind. All those £20 notes needed to be folded so they wouldn't blow away. Oh, there's so many little bits that V5 doesn't sign and rip off and put in the post. Actually now you get a little compliment slip confirming that not available. Should I have satisfied myself that the dad had shown his son's ID to buy the car and put his son's name on the vehicle? I think it was a little bit churlish. It didn't look quite good enough for me. I later got a call from the HSBC saying, "Where have you got this cash from that you're putting into your account? Why are you putting cash into your account? Is it that they really have to, or is there a third party asking?" When it comes to vintage vehicles, there are prices that people advertise at that can be a bit fantastical. They're trying to get back the money that they spent on it, which is what it is. But it's only when people have the money to burn, more money than sense, and a faltering post-Brexit economy does tend to focus even the most patriotic mind looking for a vintage British sports car. The buyer did look up when I was talking to the expert that he'd probably hired the transporter from. Some of the time he spent very quietly sort of grumbling to himself that he was taking such a risk. He wanted to fire it up so he could drive it on to the transporter easily. We pushed it, you see. But that would have broken the primary no grumbling prerequisite. He was doing slightly more than tells. Understandably, he was taking chances. The engine could have been kaput, but it cost less for the engine, which is just that of a Vauxhall saloon car. About probably now half the cost of a stainless steel exhaust. And if you're doing a turbo conversion, you might as well do it on a different engine out of the car and then just dingle-dangle it in. Like a pit stop. Box. I had wanted to keep it all OEM, original manufacturer's equipment, but you do find there's an odd little part here and there that just can't be sourced. So it's understandable that increasingly over recent years it's upgraded shocks and springs and turbos, but not cheesy customisations. My Alcantara leather dash was nice though. My genuine reason for sale wasn't so nice. I've managed to annoy a Hells Angels outlaw biker gang, and they've been stabbing 15 of my tyres. So far, they'd left the VX220 alone, but it's there. 2 have been done, and it's a very vulnerable, fragile, highly strung sports car. But perhaps the best thing about keeping a car for longer, and it's a bit of a gamble, if it's ever been crashed, it becomes less relevant. As it becomes more vintage, you'll find it much more difficult to sell a bought-back, insurance-claimed vehicle at its true wanted value. But people overlook that with rarity, and it simply doesn't show. In Europe, no one displays the number plate of their car in an advert. I don't know why this is, but I've taken to adopting that same strategy. People do ask, but I'm not telling. But now, with increasingly larger sums of money to count, and insuring a vehicle as soon as the number plate is revealed could be a protracted process. And then there's the exchanging of carte grise in French. Moi, achète de voiture, peur de process. Car buying phobia is going to get much worse, I feel. But even in Angleterre, how do you hang around while money transfers from one bank to another? It can take up to 48 hours with Wise. And what do you do as the seller if people try and claw back what they've damaged? I am looking to spend twice this amount on a new vehicle as my first import to France. Your first import is tax-free.